So I've got for you all today this 2007 BMW 328i. This Generation 3 series is known as the E90 generation. It is the generation of 3 series that replaced the E46 back in around 2005-ish. And when the E90 came out, it introduced quite a few electronic driver aids, which BMW fanatics really didn't take too kindly, as the E46 was still, a fairly simple car that didn't have all those electrical nannies. To some, the E46 is considered the last classic, simple 3 Series. But in all truth, the E90 isn't that bad. BMW's roots are still firmly planted, and it's obvious in the E90. In my opinion, the M Series version is much better than what the E46 was. That aside, when the E90 was introduced, it was competing against cars such as the Mercedes C-Class, Audi A4, Jaguar S-Type, Volvo S40, possibly the S60, Lincoln MKZ, possibly the Cadillac CTS since it was still on the smallish side, and the Lexus IS. The playing field really wasn't that large back in the mid-2000s. Now, even though this is a 328i, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a 2.8-liter inline 6-cylinder under the hood. It's actually a 3-liter. Pumps out a hardy 230 horsepower and 200 foot-pounds of torque, and it's paired to a 6-speed automatic. A proper manual transmission could also be had. These cars all came standard in rear-wheel drive configuration, but all-wheel drive was also an option. There is a mid-range 335 and the top-of-the-line M3, which got you a V8 engine, but that's a whole nother monster. And you could get them in either a sedan, coupe, convertible, or wagon. Interiors are pretty straightforward, and quality is, I'd say, about the same as the E46. Materials on the door panel are all soft to the touch, armrest as well, even the door pocket. The only thing is, BMW plastics, they tend to put like some sort of rubberized coating on top of the plastic, and over time it peels. You can somewhat see signs of that, even a little bit on the speaker grill here. I don't know why they did that. It's funny how the plastic is even the same color too. They might as well should have just left it bare plastic. Anyways, all 4 windows have auto up and down functions, power mirrors, and I got to do it with the car running, but the mirrors do collapse electronically. Very attractive interior, so BMW, very familiar. Although no longer is the dashboard shifted a little bit towards the driver as Beamers were in years past. The E46 was a little bit that way, more so the older the Beamers were. But everything is still very well laid out. The seats are comfortable-ish. Not saying that they are uncomfortable, but the sports seats definitely make a huge difference. Has additional bolsterings and thigh support extensions. Towards the bottom, this section over here would detach and extend forward. So, little things like that. Most surfaces are soft to the touch. The dashboard is padded. This section as well, all padded beside the center console, except once you get towards this section, everything is plasticky, hard to the touch, just plastics coated with some rubberized finish. The cup holders up here, this one doesn't work. Very traditional for E90 cup holders to not work, although this side does open. It slides out like so. Glove box down there, those are Twizzlers for later. Little flashlight there too. Hazards, door locks, stability and traction control. The radio, very simple, although the LCD here, the pixels are kind of screwed up. Very traditional for LCD displays in BMWs to go out for as long as I can remember. Even in the late 80s or whenever BMW started working with LCDs, they always screw up. I don't know why. It's like they have to keep up that tradition. The dual zone automatic climate control works well. Heated seats, both for the passenger and driver. The shifter has the look of like that of a manual transmission, but it's not, obviously. Feels good in your hand. Manual shift mode and sport mode right there. I hate how they also use that rubberized coating here. You can kind of see where it's bubbling a little bit. Center console armrest is padded. You lift it up and you can see remnants of spare parts here. These are little tabs that go in here. Yeah, you can see how they come out. I don't know why E90s, even the later generations, all suffer from this where the tabs just break off. a little tiny little pathetic cup holder, and it chills. Move this little slider here and it kind of blows a little bit of AC in there. So I don't know how useful that is. Let me show you how the mirrors work. Just push the button over here, the circular one, and they should collapse. Yep. Finally, a BMW in Florida. It doesn't have a sagging headliner. This one's perfectly fine, although that will squeak. Back seat isn't half bad either. Not the roomiest place, but you know, of all the German offerings in this segment, none of them had really good legroom in the back seat, even including Mercedes, Audi. Although materials do carry over to the back seat, nothing changes. Everything is soft to the touch. I do have the seat adjusted to where I want it, and I am just getting by. I'm not uncomfortable. I would have been had they have not, you know, constructed these inserts in the backrest so that my knees would just go right in there. Otherwise, thigh support isn't bad. It could have been better, but it's not uncomfortable. Headroom isn't bad. Without my hat on, I have roughly an inch of clearance. The cup holder, I don't know what it is with German cars. They always make better cup holders for the back seat than out in front. I never understood that. Effortless. Even with this automatic, it's beautiful. This is the entry engine, and it still responds beautifully. Plenty of pull, plenty of go. Does not feel gutless whatsoever. Beautiful engine note too. It never gets boring. And even though this is the automatic, it still feels very pleasant. It doesn't feel slushy. It doesn't feel lazy. You know, shifts are very quick and brisk, and you feel like a little bit of a tug too between shifts, which I find it very pleasant. Oh, never gets old. Sounds way better than the V6s from Mercedes. You can't beat the smoothness of an inline six. And BMWs have, you know, forever been known to having a stiffer or harsher ride than the Mercedes. Mercedes has always been, you know, geared towards comfort. If anything, nowadays more of a balance of both. I think Mercedes is now, you know, what BMW was of this era, you know. Now BMW is just getting so soft and they're lagging behind, but the E90 is still a good example of a proper 3 Series. Even this one with the 16-inch wheels, this car feels so planted and controlled. The steering wheel is nicely weighted, it doesn't feel artificial. It's very quiet. And maybe it has to do with the 16-inch wheels and the basic bitch suspension, but you know, the ride is still very cushiony. It's not uncomfortable or harsh. You know, it's just a perfect balance of both. This car just glides along beautifully. After spending some time with this car, I've really fallen in love with it. Can't imagine how much better had this have been a 335 or an M3 with the V8. Straight up to 7,000 RPM, this engine just screams. Let's do some manual shifting. Oh, that's the wrong way. Better in fourth. I know this is no manual. I could use a little bit less sidewall on these tires. While the car feels good, I just don't think these wheels will handle, you know, far beyond 60 miles an hour on a cloverleaf. But it still feels pretty good. The steering was nicely weighted. An hour. Jesus fucking Christ, this is so nice. And that 6-speed automatic is on point. 85 miles an hour, this car isn't pulling anywhere. So well balanced and controlled. You know, this is the type of car that you will have extreme confidence in when going over triple-digit speeds with no concern whatsoever. I bet this car will feel like a dream even at 140 miles an hour. It is a driver's car. It's not noisy in here. This car feels so beautiful. It is a shame how BMWs just aren't as reliable as a Mercedes, because they definitely are higher maintenance and more sensitive to issues. I mean, if you know how to work on cars yourself and diagnose everything solo, and again, repair everything solo, repairs won't be that bad. It's just when you take it to the dealership for every little freaking thing, then, everything adds up. BMW fanatics tend to prefer the E46. They always consider that the last classic BMW. But this car, still carries those traits along very well. It does not feel artificial at all. If you run into one of these in good shape, that's been well maintained, and it doesn't have much or anything wrong with it, don't hesitate. So long as the car is running right, you're going to be so freaking happy with it. It's just a pleasure to drive. It's so rewarding. I absolutely love this little car. If there's one thing I wish that BMW had done better, was just, not have so much painted plastics, that stuff looks nasty as it ages. This can make a person who was never into cars start liking cars. Very engaging to drive. So anyways, YouTube, remember, I still have an Instagram page, so check that out, and don't forget to subscribe. So guys, thanks for watching, and hope you all enjoyed this review and test drive.